Good morning and welcome to a brand new edition of the Dumoy Factor. We're having this conversation a day after the Liberian National Police brutalized and tear gassed innocent citizens. Their crime, they stood up for Alexander Benedict Cummings. They came to identify with him and to stand by him and to let him know that he has their support. The administration was so infuriated by the broad expression of support for Alexander Cummings that they became violent. Unfortunately, we have people who were wounded. Unfortunately, we have people who have been arrested unlawfully. Alexander Benedict Cummings and the ANC and the Liberty Party put out a statement last night condemning the violence and calling attention of the entire world to the tragic turn of events in Monrovia. This morning, I want to speak to this government. George Weah needs to remember that he took an oath. He swore an oath to protect the rights of every Liberian, regardless of their political ideologies, regardless of who they support for president. George Manneh Weah is failing in his duties. The CDC What many do not understand is that this is a dress rehearsal. This is a test case to see how this government can use the police force to put down public protests and to repress challenges to George Weah's leadership in 2023 when he loses the election. This is a playbook that the George Manneh Weah administration is putting to test. They bought opposition. They part of the opposition that have accepted money and is concerned with power and nothing more than personal aggrandizement, led by Joseph M. Boakai, supported by Bernard Wilfred Ure, sat back and watched. We have not heard a word from the Unity Party. We have not heard a word from Joseph Juma Boakai as Liberians are being brutalized in the streets because they came out to express their disagreement with the persecution of Alexander Benedict Cummings. George Manneh Weah needs to understand that the Liberian National Police and the AFL and the security services have never been able to save a single president. The only president in the post-Tuareg Party Liberia, the post-First Republic, that have survived 2 terms and went unscathed was a president that respected the democratic order. That was Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The only way to protect your throne, the only way to protect your leadership of the country is to yield to the democratic rights of our people. Dictators do not last long in Monrovia. So those in the George Weah administration that are advising him to use brute force to try and put down support for Alexander Cummings need to stop. And Weah himself, if there is any time he needs his brain, is now. Because what you don't understand is that the Liberian state is not that powerful. The Liberian state is a dependent country. There are new international norms. So when you watch, for example, a tyrant like Museveni put down Bobby Wine and the opposition in Uganda, and you try to copy and replicate that in Liberia, there are a few things you should consider. There are a few things you should consider. What is the strength of the Ugandan government compared to the strength of the Liberian government, both economically, militarily, and security-wise? And ability to live off of aid and a drive for aid. So, for example, America can turn the other eye, turn the other way when there is repression in Uganda. In the war against Al-Shabaab, you have no such security ties with America. You have no such security ties of that nature with America. So you are not in the same position to do this bullying and this abuse of office that we are witnessing. And you just have to stop the madness. This morning, I listened to, beginning last night, I listened to some opposition figures react to the violence. And they're treating it as though it is a Alexander Cummings situation. It is not an Alexander Cummings case. This is a case of Liberians asserting their right to exercise the constitutionally guarded right of peacefully assembling. This applies to all. So the next time you and George Manawia disagree and people assemble to stand by you, you can expect similar action. So those who are minimalizing this, those who are criticizing the ANC and Alexander B. Cummings for his supporters coming out to stand by him after informing the Ministry of Justice and conducting themselves peaceably, you need to have a second thought. You need to have a second thought. And look at the so-called wise old man. Look at what his associates are saying. Henry Pedro Costa got on his show this morning earlier and made the ridiculous argument that Alexander Cummings should apologize. That, you know, he lied to the people, he misled the people. Nonsense. Nonsense. And these people are associated with Joseph Nimabwakai, showing this insensitivity. Liberians were beaten and tear-gassed. And your response is to play politics. Whenever Liberians who do not provoke the police, who are not violent, who act in accordance with the constitutional right to participate in political activities and rallies, show up to do so, they are repressed. I want to take my hats off today for all the men and women that showed up yesterday. Too often we talk about Liberians being docile, about them not standing up. But when they stand up, the government is using the barrel of the gun to put them down. So Liberians are in a situation where the government does not deliver and will not allow the people to exercise their democratic right to change them. George Manawia is testing. He is testing his anti-democratic tactics. George Manawia is running his anti-democratic tactics. And by the time it is proven that the opposition will cower, that civil society, the Liberia Bar Association, and so on and so forth, that society will sit and accept this level of repression, then it will be applied subsequently. That this is the way to go about it. We must, as a people, reject the state-sponsored violence justified by official lies. State-sponsored violence justified by official lies. The George Weah administration, it's becoming tyrannical. The George Manuel Weah administration causes pain with its economic policies. It has destroyed incomes and livelihood, taking away up to 30% of civil servants' income under a discredited program of quote-unquote harmonization. And this system does not want to does not want to recognize people's right to replace it. Like you get children, you say you're not going to feed them, but you won't let them go fend for themselves. You wouldn't let them go live with any other relatives. This is where we are. We are slowly approaching a post-democratic era in Liberia. Democracy is not just that you have a right to vote. It's also that you have a right to hold accountable the government that you have constituted. Yesterday, the people came out in their tens of thousands. The government could not stand it. You see, around about 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., I saw a flying sheet of a statement from the office of a low-level official in the Unity Party, an assistant secretary general issuing a statement condemning the brutality meted out against the citizens of Liberia that were standing with Alexander Cummings yesterday. But what she forgot to write is that the Unity Party worked in concert with the government to carry out that violence, and that the issuance of the statement, which is half-hearted, is meant to protect the Unity Party from blame. It is a face-saving and tactical gesture. It is not a real solidarity. Because if Joseph Numa Bwaga is in town and is in the know that Liberians are being brutalized, some of them are from Lofa. He chose to remain quiet and send an assistant secretary general to speak to the matter. We have it on good authority that the Unity Party was in the know. And because they are working together, the Unity Party, the ALP, and the CDC are working together. Costa told you, Dillon told you, Berona Yure told you that they're working with the government. And so as we stand, there is only one person in the opposition today that is still committed to making George Manuel Weah a one-term president, and that is Alexander Benedict Cummings. And the Unity Party, the ALP, may be issuing statements to quote-unquote condemn a violence that they were part of planning and executing. They're working together. The UAs work together with the government to get the officers at the court, the sheriff, to attack the security of Musa Hassan Bility, and sponsor a civil lawsuit, a coordinated attack. But one by one, all of these maneuvers will be defeated. One by one, all of these attempts to undermine the struggle for change in Liberia will be defeated. Let's deal with the issues ahead of us. Today, Alexander Cummings and other leaders of the ANC will go to court. Serena Cephas have finally presented what he is calling evidence. I told you on this program, he doesn't have evidence. So he produced the framework document. I mean, the same documentations, official documentation that we know about. He has submitted those as the evidence to establish that Alexander Benedict Cummings committed a crime of fraud. Although it's useless, the framework document is in the public. He didn't present anything new. I told you in my last broadcast that because Serena Cephas' back is against the wall, he will go and bring documents that we all know. That's it. And I understand that they have been having meetings considering ways in which they can drop the case without making Alexander Cummings look like a hero. And then now they're looking for other ways to continue to delay Alexander Cummings and distract him. That is why they sponsored a lawsuit with the name of court officials, because there was an altercation at the court, and therefore the government is behind that civil lawsuit as a way of finding another legal matter to hold Alexander Cummings with, because this flimsy framework document case is not going to hold him. So they are creating a plan B. On another front, Nyomli Kanga Lawrence and Steve Zago, former chairman of the Liberty Party, held press conferences in which they asserted that there is a conspiracy between NEC and Musa Bility, and so they're going to go to court. They also issued a very stupidly worded statement. It was so stupid that none of them wanted to put their names to it, except for Senator Nyomli Kanga Lawrence's name was mentioned, and Steve Zago was described as chairman. None of them would put their signature to the letter. They said it was signed by the secretariat. Who is the secretariat? So stupid was the letter. Basically, glorifying the government for violating the rights of citizens. So hate-filled is Senator Nyomli Kanga Lawrence and Ibrahim Taras Dillon. They're so full of hatred that even when the government brutalized members of the opposition, they cannot find the courage to speak out. Senator Dillon likes to run his mouth about courage. He lacks it. And so I don't want you to be confused. As all of these things are playing out, few things are clear. Number one, Alexander Benedict Cummings will absolutely destroy this bogus charge against him. Number two, these charges are politically motivated. Number three, Alexander Cummings is the leader of the Liberian opposition. He leads the CPP. And number four, make no mistake, plans are underway to revive the CPP in the context where ALP and the Unity Party are walking away. In the coming months, the CPP will launch a massive comeback and claim its position as the largest opposition bloc in the country. Alexander Cummings will make sure of that because he's organized. Because Alexander Cummings have top-notch advisors that have told him what the GOL maneuvering is about. he is not distracted by this court case. And that's why when you listen to his speech on Sunday, he tells you how he is focused on making We I Want Him president, and also moving beyond that to deliver a Liberia where Liberians are not spectators. And he said Liberians are not even spectators. They're outside the field. They're not on the stadium wing. They are not in VIP. They're not around VIP. They are outside the field. And so we, at this point in time, that support Alexander Cummings, we are very proud of the level of focus. Those of us who are in the know, we see that there is a level of focus and that this man is not shaking. What they used to do to Alexander Cummings in the CPP, they are now displaying for the entire country to see. And because of this, many Liberians are beginning to see who the real opposition is. Because if Benona, Ure, and Boakai can work with George Manuel Weah to prosecute Alexander Cummings, and they can work with George Weah to beat people up and down on Capitol Hill, then you know that these people do not represent change. They are regime collaborators. So as we're going to the court, as we're going to observe what's going to play out today in court, I will have a shorter version of the show. But tomorrow I'll be back with more revelation and analysis right here on the Tumoy Factor. Thanks for being there.